interview.
Hey everybody, it's Ricardo, and we are here at Capcom's Captivate event in Miami, Florida, and I'm sitting here with Kazuhiro Tsuchiya, who is producer on Asura's Wrath, which is the latest action title from Capcom that just takes everything to a whole new level. Like the last time we saw it, there's a big finger from space. Today we got to see the finger get punched and a bunch of other craziness. So, sir, what are you people doing with this thing?
Well, if you want to describe this game as crazy, I'm going to take that as a compliment. What we're hoping to do here is create a game that creates these situations that no one's ever seen before, that are just going to really surprise the hell out of players. And of course, we're hoping to put Asura himself in a few tight spots in the game, so the players have a lot of challenges to overcome.
Now, the game story is still not entirely out there for people, and you guys aren't revealing everything, but can you explain to us just as much as you can about the story and how you're taking elements of science fiction and mythology and putting it all together?
What we're trying to create is a completely original story that blends some of the influences and motifs from Asian mythology with some core sci-fi elements. But that's not to say that you need to be familiar with Asian mythology to play this game or to understand this game. We've created an original story. The mythology aspects only influence or the art design and are the inspiration for the game. But this game anyone can play and jump into and understand what's going on. So the game starts out with Asura and like the boss you saw in the presentation, they're both these demigods, and they inhabit this world. They protect the world and its inhabitants. But at some point, Asura is betrayed by the other deities, and they kidnap his daughter. And Asura himself has been banished to Earth. So Asura, he's pretty angry about that. So now he's on a mission to not only get his daughter back, but have his revenge upon all those who betrayed him. That's how the story opens in this game.
Now, it's clear he's a very angry person, but he also has 6 arms. Now, from the influences of mythology, is he based on any one particular deity?
Well, the design of Asura is very much influenced by Asian mythology and certain deities within certain theologies, Asian theologies. His design itself isn't taken whole from those mythologies. It's a completely original design. It's just inspired by those motifs. So what we were looking for with the design of Asura himself, we wanted a character who can convey all the power and strength that Asura holds, as well as all that incredible anger he has.
Now, in terms of the gameplay, we've seen kind of a very small sampling at today's event. There was traditional third-person action on the ground, and then there was the over-the-top boss fight with one of his ex-friends. Now, I'm very curious as to how you came to decide the balance between those small moments that are very visceral with fighting someone in space.
First of all, just as you said, there are the more traditional third-person action fighting scenes in the game, and then those over-the-top fighting bosses, planet-sized bosses in space. But the way it's inputted into the game is not just to have these certain parameters and it just follows a similar order throughout the whole game. What we want to do is tie it all into the story and the more dramatic elements of the game. So the way the story unfolds informs the action elements in the game. So when you have certain parts of the story, you're going to have these moments where it's like that third-person action. But at other points in the story, you're going to be fighting these giant gods in space. What we want to do is make sure that it's interesting for the player, that the player doesn't get bored with what we have in the game. And as I said, everything is predicated upon the story. The story informs the action. So without the story, you wouldn't have these great action sequences. So we want to make sure that anytime there's an action, there's a reason for it. And the story that informs that action will offer you a richer fighting experience.
And in terms of the actual mechanics that we saw today, there was traditional sort of D-pad and buttons control, but as well we saw like quick time events and more shorter, very quick-paced mechanics. So can you talk to us a little bit about how that's going to come into the action?
The game is designed so it's not as simple as just you have to push a few certain buttons at certain set points in the game. It's all predicated, as I said, upon the story. And so sometimes in the boss fights you do have these quick time event-like scenes that lead into more intense action scenes. while you're fighting, there'll be different times when you can choose different styles of fighting. So it's not all set in stone that you have to fight a certain way, and we're not trying to force the player into a certain play style. But because the action is forward by the story, sometimes you need these like quick time events to allow you to feel the dramatic elements while you're fighting. And of course, we're going to improve on have the camera angles and the shots of the player of Asura and the way he fights. We're going to make it all very dramatic. So while it feels like a movie, it'll still feel like you're playing an action game.
So the game wasn't playable at today's event, but you've promised big things in the future. So can you tell us when we're going to be able to get our hands on it and when it will be coming out on and what consoles?
Okay, well, as I promised here today, we want to get playable out there for people to get their hands on the experience for themselves. So we're going to have that available in June at this year's E3 show. So if you come out to E3, you'll be able to experience and play it. I understand not all the users out there will be able to make it to E3. So stay tuned for more announcements. We will be figuring out ways to get it into more people's hands so they can try it out and experience it for themselves and understand what this game really will be holding for them. Asura's Wrath will be available on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and we're looking to get it out in 2012 as early as possible.
Thank you very much, sir. So there you go. That is your latest update on Asura's Wrath, an totally insane game that's coming for Xbox and PS3. We will have it on our stage show at E3, so be sure and check back with us then.